Okay, so for our very last video, we're going to be working with the object hierarchy. Now, think of the object hierarchy as a hotel in a metaphor. So when you actually decide you want to go to a hotel, you first have to decide what hotel you're going to go to, whether that's a Hilton or a Marriott. Then you can decide, once you get into the hotel lobby, what floor you want to go to. And then after that, what room. Well, VBA works with objects kind of a similar way where there's kind of a structure. The very first one is the application. And for the purposes of this class, the application is always going to be Excel, but there can be many different applications that you'll be working with. The second one is the workbook. Now, we will be doing some different things with the workbook. This is like book one, different Excel files that you have. And they don't necessarily all have to have the .xlsm tag to be able to be worked with VBA. You can work with the XLS and CSV files and all of the others as well. The next level that gets more specific is the worksheet. Now, the worksheet's like sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, etc. And the final one is a range. Now, the range can be like either one cell, like A2, or it can be a bunch of cells. So that's the object hierarchy kind of in a nutshell. Now, to actually work with this, we're going to mock up a program. And you can see in VBA that once you're actually typing some of this, it automatically defaults to some things. Don't want that. So what this says is go to the application, go to the active workbook, the active sheet, and select cell A7. Now I can run this and you can see, voila, it actually works. Now VBA doesn't make you have to say all of this. This actually says the exact same thing, but it defaults to whatever is currently active. So because I'm on sheet 1, I'm not going to be going over to like sheet 3 and selecting A7. I'm going to just stay on sheet 1, as you can see here. Now you can also work with different worksheets, and that's primarily what we'll be focusing on for this lesson. There's a difference between display name and a code name. So when I'm working with a sheet right here, you can see that in the properties window there's a couple of things that pop up that say sheet 1. Now the display name is this one down here. This is one that the user can see, and you can actually rename here by double clicking or using hotkeys or whatever. Let's call this one monkey. So you can see when up here in this brackets, you can see the display name has changed. That's the one within parentheses, and also changed down here. And I'm going to change the sheet name here to bear. Now this is different from this. The very top one, bear, is the code name. This is actually something that VBA will recognize, and it should be what you use when you're working with different worksheets in terms of selecting them or deleting them or whatever. Because it's more robust. It's more likely the user will not change them. So the way to work with the code name is that you could just type whatever the worksheet code name is and just say select. And I'll just show you here real quick that it actually works. The way to do it with the sheets method is working with the display name is you have to put it in quotes what the actual sheet name is. So that does the same thing. And as you can see, it works. But let's say I don't like monkeys, instead I like pandas. So will this actually work? Well, nope, you get an error. And that's just because it no longer finds the sheet name monkey. So that's part of it. You have to be understanding that the user can change your program, and you have to be able to adapt to that. Now, the next thing that I'll be going over is ranges and cells. So I showed you guys before how I could say range A1 select, and it moves all the way to the top. Well, I can do a similar thing by using the cells command in what's called R1C1 notation. I think of R1C1, R2D2 is the easy way that I remembered it, that the R comes first. R stands for rows, C stands for columns. So cells takes integer arguments, well, not integer, but natural number arguments. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. And row is pretty straightforward. Let's say I want to go in the 9th row. Columns, it's kind of straightforward as well. It takes natural number arguments, but it's A is equivalent to 1, B is 2, C is 3. So if I want to go to D9, I do 9 comma 4 and I will say select. So you can see A1 is already selected from up here, and this can be selected down here, and then the program is done. Now, these are two different ways to do the same thing. So I can say like select A1 here and select A1 here. But there's some advantages and disadvantages to both of them. Now for range, you can actually select multiple cells by just throwing in a comma and say E7. Now that is actually pretty good in terms of selecting multiple different things. And this is something that cells actually cannot do. So you can see here that it actually selects all of these cells right here, and the program is done. Now, where cells has kind of an advantage is when you're looping. So looping or iterating over different things, let's say you want to go from like A1, A2, A3 and keep moving down, then you'll want to use cells because then you can just rack, say like go to 9, 10, 11, 12. That's a lot easier to do than to be working with text arguments up here. Now one really cool feature of range is that it can actually accept range values as well as arguments. So let's say I can throw cells in there. I can say go to A1 to D9 and it actually works out because it can select range arguments. You can also throw a range within a range, which sounds kind of trippy. Let's go to A2 instead. Yeah. So that really covers the first lesson in this lecture series. Definitely practice these, go over this. I know I threw a lot at you at this video, so make sure to ask questions and go over as many times as you need to.